What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Outside the Stadium. Joining us today is Miami Heat forward Solomon Hill. What's going on, Solomon?
Not much. How you guys doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Awesome. So I'm Harry. The one with the Heat background is Dero. What's going on, Dero?
What's up, everybody?
Dero, you want to take us away?
Yes, sir. Solomon, thank you so much for coming on. So I want to turn the clock back a little bit. So why don't you did really, really well in college. You killed it, winning some big awards, all Pac-12 first team. I think you did it twice. Correct me if I'm wrong, but, tell us about your college years and some things that stand out to you.
Just the business aspect of college and what we see today, what we see is transpired into, even as far as the new G League and the development league and the contracts that come out of that situation. I think that's college kind of put basketball in perspective for me. Going and playing against different teams and seeing different arenas. Even when you go on your official visits, it's basically, a gun show. Every college wants to show you their latest and greatest building or what they can provide for you, or you're looking around seeing the facilities, and when you're 18 years old, you don't know the difference that makes as far as how it adapts to your body and your ability to play the game, your ability to recover. And so when I was in college, I was able to kind of understand that as a player, and just seeing how the movements of everything happened first and foremost. And it changed. The game does change when you go to college. You grow up playing the game, loving it, and just being able to kind of dominate in your own way, whatever way that is. And then the bubble gets smaller. The bubble, but the everybody that's great at high school, sometimes go to college, and then that gets smaller and gets competitive. And I was blessed to be in a position to go to college, graduate from college, and also be drafted in the NBA.
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing. It's a great thing to hear your name called at draft day.
Definitely.
Yeah, so you've been to the playoffs 3 times, and this year will be your 4th. Can you tell us a little bit about playoff atmosphere and how the game changes?
Yeah, man, it's the most exciting basketball I'll say on earth. There's nothing like playoff basketball. Anytime you're talking about winning when you're growing up and you want to be a champion, and it all goes. It leads to the playoffs. It's one thing to make the playoffs and give yourself a chance, and it's another thing to realistically be competing. And that's what the NBA is, this the biggest stage. And it's the reason why we're currently in Orlando, because, it's none of the regular season means anything if we can't get to the playoffs and be a part of going for a championship.
Sure. Very well said. And I have to comment on something you just said. So, obviously every kid's dream is to be drafted, and you obviously, were fortunate enough to have that happen. Can you tell us what it's like to be drafted to the NBA? You were obviously drafted in 2013.
Yeah, you know what? It depends. It depends on, for me, it happened. It was a moment. But for me, it wasn't. It was weird, especially with my father, because to him, it was always going to happen. It was nothing to kind of be excited about. It was the next step to what we always talked about. When you have a realistic goal and you feel, I'm pretty sure there's many NBA players as there is. I'm pretty sure the majority of them are confident in their ability to play the game of basketball. And that just goes off of their practice and where we come from, what we've done to get to this point. And it was kind of just like a door opening and basically being welcomed into a club, a highly prestigious club of some of the best players, if not the best players on the planet. And it was just exciting, to have all the work pay off and to take that step of being, your own CEO. In college, you're not making your own decisions for your brand. You're making decisions for that college brand. And so what the NBA allowed me to do is to basically become my own CEO. And it was cool. It's just that not only financial freedom, but being a young man doing the thing that he thought about since he was a kid, and being able to have some financial freedom as well, especially where I came from. Words couldn't describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like it's very well said. Like, you're your own CEO at 18 years old. very tough. I don't even want to know how hard that is, you know? So can you tell us a little bit about how you're adjusting to all the different changes to the NBA bubble with no fans, the different training facilities and all of that?
Yeah, no, you know what? We're just now diving into some of that stuff, and I'm excited to see what we're able to accomplish while we're here. You know, especially when you get past. I'm still in the first phase, which would be the quarantine phase. But you know, I've played at Disneyland when I was a kid. You know, it's kind of like this is not like full circle, but it's crazy to think that I'd be back here playing basketball, and I'm excited. You know, just to get past this first phase and whatnot, and it'd be more. I'm looking at it like a mini boot camp for basketball. You know, it's going to be really weird playing the game without fans. I've never played basketball without somebody in the stands. Period. I mean, even pickup games, you have a couple people in there, and that's going to be different. That's definitely going to be different. You know, because you feed off that energy. Home court advantage is real. It's very real when you play the game of basketball, and you know sometimes you need that pick me up, and it may not come from your team. It may come from a fan or a play that you make that gets people off their feet. But money has to be made. You know, there's a lot of forces that want this game to continue to be played, and you know, for the most part, we want to provide a service to the fans because without the fans, there's no us. You know, I'm just probably playing pickup at the YMCA. I'll still be playing basketball regardless of the dollar amount behind it, but the fans have made this a premier game, a premier sport that everybody wants to watch, and we're able to put something together and to give them that.
Very well said. And you mentioned, sometimes your teammates are the ones who have you up, but sometimes are the fans. So let me ask you, you've been in the league for, quite some time. You've had some great teammates. Who would you say are some of the best teammates you've ever played with?
You know what? Hands down, I'll have to say David West. I think the NBA is going a lot younger. Unfortunately, you're giving young guys opportunity for sure, but the one thing that may be lacking in the situation is that veteran leadership. Guys that have been around the block, that have done it, that have been in the trenches and have been doing it for a long time is something that we were accustomed to growing up. Reggie Miller played for Indiana for 15 plus years. Vince Carter just retired for playing 20 some years. Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe, all the guys that, we grew up on, and then they found roles. Jason Kidd, we talk about Jason Kidd being the dynamic point guard that he is, and then later on in his career becoming the deadly three-point shooter. So with that, you have an influx of young talent, but then you're in a situation where you don't have anybody in the locker room to kind of lead the way, and not just lead the way vocally and just being somebody in the locker room, but also on the court. But D West was really that guy for me. I think being able to watch him in New Orleans and him coming to Indiana, even the decision he made to leave Indiana. A lot of people look at the money value, but they don't look at, there's way more to the game of basketball and life than money.
Yeah, he was your vet, so I'm sure he, in the league and with everything, like you said before. So you've been known as a defensive anchor on many teams. Can you tell us a little bit about how that is and some of the toughest guys you had to go against?
Yeah, you know what my coach always told me, I think, and it's even with kids nowadays, and you see it on Twitter, you see it everywhere. Everybody's so they're so I don't know the word I'm looking for, but everybody's just kind of not obsessed, but they see the glitz and glamour of the game of basketball. You got your scores. I mean, for sure, scoring is huge. Being able to score on somebody that knows your game that's tough. It's tough. One of the toughest things to do in basketball. But one thing my high school coach told me that I hung my hat on was, every team has one or two Kobe's or star players, but there's right now we have 17 guys that came down with us. There's only a couple. We have a Bam, we have a Jimmy, but we still need to fill out the roster. And there's going to be a place for a guy on the team that can play defense. And that, when he told me that, I didn't really take it to heart. I'm thinking I want to score points. I can only make it if I score points. And then it was reissued to me again once I got to college that, hey, you're going to have to play. You're going to play defense. There's always going to be room for somebody on the team that wants to go out there, do the dirty work, play defense. And in regards to your question about the toughest person I've had to guard, you know what? It'd be with respects to the James Hardens of the world, Carmelo's, the KD's, Klay Thompson is probably the hardest person that I've had to guard. And it was just because when you're guarding like a Carmelo, when you're guarding the James Harden, when you're guarding the KD, those guys, they have moves that they set you up with that, to get to their spots. Klay is a guy that we've seen. He can score with no dribbles. And I feel like that's one of the most deadliest players ever is like, you relax 1 second and the ball's already in the air. He doesn't need much space. He doesn't need any space at all to get off his shot. And it's so quick and effortless. When he put up like that 50 or whatever, he only had like 11 dribbles out of that whole 50. And I remember one time we played in Indy, Steph Curry missed the game. And it was kind of like, oh, I'll just take his threes too. And he had I think he had anywhere from like 45 to 50 on us that night. And it wasn't, the stuff that you see on IG. It wasn't the stuff that, the handles and all the, no, it was just every time he caught it and he had a good look, he was knocking it down.
That's interesting, Clay. No, that's a great answer. And,
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned like that every team has maybe a Kobe or a Curry, but, there's a whole rest of the team that kind of carries it. And that's one of the reasons we started this platform was to get the fans to like understand that and, to meet some of the guys that aren't necessarily, that number one or number two option, but just, guys who carry the team, the veterans and the role players as well.
Defense, like you said, but by the way, I was going to say before, defense wins championships. So
for sure, you're not one of the critical stats that inside the NBA, that's a for sure way of knowing if you have real aspirations is that you have to be top 10 in both categories, offensively and defensively, to win a championship. I think it's something like maybe going on at least 40 some years or 50 some years of no team has won a championship not being within the top power scoring teams. When you get to the playoffs, it exposes those weak points, because that's all everybody does. We're going to watch hours and hours, and especially now we're in the bubble. We have, we don't have our families with us. So the only thing you can do, and it's going to be a turning point, you have guys like Rondo. Rondo's just going to digest so much film that anytime you call a play, he's going to know it. And then he's going to tell the team. And so then that's when you key in on certain aspects of teams, of players. And yeah, it's really crazy that, of course that sells, like offense sells, but, defense wins championships for real.
Yeah, that's really well said, because I think I think this is probably the hardest championship to ever win ever in basketball history, because like you said, like this is it. You're in the bubble. Like it's basketball 24/7, 365. There are zero distractions except when you're doing interviews outside the stadium, but we're still talking ball. So it's, I'm really excited to see you guys back out there. I have to ask, so tell us about some of your role models and people that have helped you get to this point.
Number one would be my father. I went through, like I watched like the Ball brothers, and watching LeVar, basically generate this energy for his kids. And, that energy came out as, Zoe went to the Lakers. I think everybody thought he was crazy when he was talking about Zoe to the Lakers. And, we talking about Melo and the things that he did for Melo to put him in a position to be drafted top 5. And then I look at my father and how my father never doubted a day in his mind. And still to this day, he'll tell me, hey man, you can be an all-star still. You can do this. And he gives me that confidence sometimes. When you get to the NBA, when you get to college, just because you've made it doesn't mean that you get to live out all your dreams. There's like any job that you go to, just because you can do A, B, and C, if that job wants you to do B and B only, then you have to do B or you are out of a job. And my father just was able to not only be there for me, but also put the ball in my hands and show me the responsibility that came with basketball. And I'm forever grateful for having him in my life. And my wife, my wife was always, I know my wife, since I was like 16 years old. And she's been another driving force that, has been there for me. My parents and my wife have been, my number one fans, and I'm very thankful for them for getting me in this position.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, the most important thing is people having your back and knowing what you're putting up. So I want to know, what are some of your short-term goals and long-term goals?
Short-term goals, just to make it out of this bubble. Honestly, I got a daughter I have a daughter and I have a son on the way, and so I just want to. I think my short-term goals will be the things that I thought I should have did during the quarantine and the shutdown. Those whatever months, I got an extended period of being able to cultivate those ideas while I'm here, and which would just be trying to learn as much as I can, and as far as like finances, whatever. One of the things that we're talking about now is like social justices. So education reform within my community. One thing that I'm very opposed of is, I'm pretty much sure I can go down the line of NBA players, is that when I became an NBA player and I signed these contracts, the first thing you do is basically move out of your area into what we call a nicer area. I think about my kids and I want them to go to better schools, but I have to basically move from where I'm from and go to these areas where I'm in the minority and possibly even looked at in a different light to send my kids to a school to give them an honest chance. When we're talking about people putting in resumes and in jobs and internships, going to the schools where I'm from, the numbers speak for themselves. And so I'm huge on, we have to rebrand some of that money. We talk about, some of the teachers that have had a huge impact on my life, being underpaid. And when you're talking about seeing 30 students every hour, up to teaching over 200 to 300 students a day, and the impact that a teacher can have on those kids, I think that's huge. I think we need to put money into our youth, and it doesn't need to be the NBA players. We are a small number. Anybody can look at the numbers. We're a small number of people that make it to the NBA, and we're also a small amount of people that are able to earn whatever we're earning for a limited amount of time. Some people don't. Everybody's not LeBron James, where you can just make $400, $600, $1 billion playing basketball. And so why is it pressure on the individual players to take care of their communities? Or we're talking about government work that should be done, not based on one person that not only has to take care of their family, themselves, their community. That's a lot of responsibility, period, for guys that pretty much haven't came from a lot. So I think just trying to take in as much information as I can during this time, give myself a mental break as well. I've been playing this game since I was 7 years old. It's every year has been clockwork, whether I'm in school or in the NBA. The NBA schedule is the same as my schooling, where I have the summers off. But then basically during the school year, I'm playing basketball. I haven't necessarily been around my family, been home on Christmases or certain holidays that people celebrate. So I think this time is just for me to kind of take it slow, learn as much as I can, put myself around situations to continue to learn. It's a big reason why I'm doing this interview, is because just to open up and try to use this platform to continue to learn is it's truly a blessing for me.
Yeah, that was extremely well said. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. And we'll do our part to get that message out there as far as we can. So before we let you go, we know you're in the bubble. We gotta ask, can we see what the rooms look like?
For
What
sure.
you're looking at?
Definitely. So basically, just got some waters and stuff. Got some books. I got my iPad. Got my gun. Got some little toys and stuff that they gave out. Got my little areas. It's just like little areas. We have open space. Or just a little bit open. I didn't. I thought I was ahead of the thinking curve when I bought my water purifier. Just in case, I don't want to be using bottles. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot of waste, a lot of plastic utensils being given out, and then we have a little view. I'd love a window, but I mean, we have some view, and that's pretty much it, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. This is not like Disneyland to be totally silent. And look, there go the security securing out there, but yeah, man, it's pretty chill. It's not anything crazy. It's not
yeah, for sure.
It is what it is. We're here to play basketball, and we'll try to figure everything else out in between.
No doubt. Well, Salman, thank you so much for showing us, that view, and we'll get your message out to fans. We'll give some fans an inside look at the bubble, and we really appreciate you. Can't wait to see you back there on the field, and hopefully we'll stay in touch and speak to you soon.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Beautiful.